From 2002 to 2005, the Clone Wars multimedia project from Lucasfilm reigned high in the fan perspective. It was something that was cherished and loved and was done until 2008 came along. 2008, I've said before, is one of the worst years to happen to Star Wars, aside from the Disney buyout. This was the year where people decided, and Lucasfilm, that Anakin Skywalker needed apprentices. We got in the Dave Filoni Clone Wars movie and TV show, where Anakin gets a really obnoxious apprentice. Then we got one of the worst video games ever made called Force Unleashed, where Darth Vader got a secret apprentice. This was when Lucasfilm seemed to not give two shits about the fandom anymore and decided to make nonsense. And with that nonsense comes an attempt to tie it in to the EU. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about The Clone Wars Wild Space by Karen Miller. One of the worst Star Wars books I've ever read in the expanded universe. Wild Space opens right after Attack of the Clones. What? Really? Yeah. The first chapter is the aftermath of Attack of the Clones and Obi-Wan telling Padme, like, hey, you can't be with Anakin anymore. That's not right. He loves you, but you're going to ruin his Jedi training. You need to back up. So they get married. Anakin and Padme. We all know this. This is Attack of the Clones. Cut to a few months later. The Clone Wars movie happened. And you say, what? No, that's not possible. Anakin's a Jedi Knight in the Clone Wars movie. That happens like a year and a half to 2 years after Attack of the Clones. Well, yeah, it did. And then Filoni's Clone Wars happened. So, this book retcons all Clone Wars material that happened over that 2-year period of time, and it happened in 3 months. Don't think hard about this, people, because it will hurt your brain like it hurts mine. It is one of the most baffling retcons I've ever read in my entire life. So this book boils down to a plot where Bail Organa and Obi-Wan Kenobi have basically been a thorn in Palpatine's side for way too long. So Palpatine sets up a trap for them on the Sith planet of Segula. You never heard of Segula? Don't worry. It's only brought up in Karen Miller's god-awful books. And there is an ancient Sith temple that starts to poison Obi-Wan, and Bail has to protect him. They have to work together while they're marooned on the planet. And Anakin is doing Clone Wars things because this is the book that's attempting to do a story in Season 1 of the Clone Wars. Also, Padme does things. So, let's talk about the purpose of this book, because there was a purpose here. That purpose was to explain why when Obi-Wan doesn't trust politicians, he trusts Bail Organa. This is to establish their friendship. The problem with that is that didn't need to warrant a whole novel. Because basically the rest of this book is absolutely worthless. It is one of the worst Star Wars books I've read in the expanded universe, because it is so baffling. It's the first Star Wars novel that from the Clone Wars that has Anakin in it that doesn't reference the Battle of Jabim. In fact, I think Karen Miller's the only Star Wars author of the novels that doesn't reference Jabim, because Jabim is if you've read the Clone Wars multimedia project or very invested in it in any sort of way, you know that Jabim tested Anakin and was a stepping stone for him to go to the dark side. It was He lost Obi-Wan, thought Obi-Wan was dead, and he was left alone essentially on this planet that they didn't win. Remember the Mortis arc? Well, the Mortis arc rips off Jabeem, but we're not reviewing Jabeem, although I wish we were reviewing The Last Stand on Jabeem. We're reviewing Wild Space. So Anakin and Ahsoka are doing dumb things in Season 1 of the Clone Wars while this is going on. Bail and Obi-Wan can't stand each other, and it's really irritating. It's just an irritating book. On top of just doing one of the most baffling retcons I've ever seen in anything ever. I think the only thing that comes close is Alien Covenant Origins, explaining that Wayland Yutani was not... Wayland was a separate company from Yutani in the future, and that I won't get into that. We're not talking about that garbage. We're talking about this garbage. It's a very drawn-out, bland book that is only referenced in Karen Miller's other books. And you see Rex here? See, he gets the front cover. Ha ha! Barely in the book. Yeah. Didn't see that one coming, did you? Oh, God. Gotta talk about the other Dave Filoni Clone Wars stuff. This is also one of the few appearances of Ahsoka in the novels. That's a thing, I guess. Ugh. It's bad. It gets a whopping 2 out of 5. Would not recommend.